Our education system has failed us. This is not a video that I saw myself making. I thought for the longest time that it was pretty obvious that the game and Tom Clancy's work in general has a huge degree of political undertones. The, quote, current political landscape, blah, 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 is extremely toxic and divided, and just saying the P word is enough to get people upset. Yeah, I know. You guys know. I could say something like Bernie Sanders has a funny haircut, and people will unironically ask, why are you putting politics in a Rainbow Six Siege? Why would you do that? Of course, this concept is ridiculous because, first of all, look at it. And second of all, this idea that Siege is completely removed from it, and therefore we shouldn't talk about it, is such a massive black hole imploded brain take. It genuinely makes me wonder how the American education system has failed this generation this badly. So I will simply do what Joe Biden could not do. My goal is to illuminate and educate. So allow me to go back in time and explain to you, the viewer, the origin point of the counter-terrorist unit as we see it today, and provide a little context as to the background of them. CTUs, as they are depicted in Siege, can trace their origins back to the SAS, Special Air Service. Most of my generation got exposed to this group in popular culture in Call of Duty 4.
Knife the watermelon.
Previous generations got exposed to them by the London Iranian Embassy siege in 1980. The purpose of the SAS and subsequent theory on Special Forces units that followed was to function as a precision instrument capable of doing highly specialized tasks that conventional line armies could not accomplish. The thing about a dude with a gun is that compared to things like planes or tanks, they're very small and can wield any form of equipment that isn't too heavy for the average person to carry, making them perfect for reconnaissance, sabotage, hostage rescue, to name a few things. As warfare became more mechanized and chaotic, it was evident that there would always be the need for a team of people that could fulfill a variety of mission objectives that typical air, land, and sea assets could not. So many countries followed suit with their own equivalents to the SAS, but not everybody, as it was all based on contextual needs of different countries at the time. The US had their own equivalent of what tactics and methodology would find themselves to become the foundation of units like the Navy SEALs and groups like the Marine Raiders, which again, my generation was exposed to in popular culture and video games, but the Navy SEALs as we know them today weren't officially created until 1962. So the SAS were the OGs and wrote a lot of the books. But a lot of the European units, as you know them in Rainbow Six Siege, came about as a result of a terror attack at the Olympics in Munich in 1972. In particular, GIGN and GSG-9. I know that Rainbow Six Siege has pivoted significantly from what a lot of people envisioned it being in 2015. I've talked about it several times, it's a dead horse at this point. But what I find so strange and amusing is that how upset people get at even relating the game to any kind of political themes at all. It's not like I'm talking about the political connotations of Mars colonization in the Doom series. Rainbow Six Siege's relationship with these topics is inherently linked. And it's not off topic or out of pocket. There's no ulterior motive here, right? I don't indict the individuals this game represents, but just saying the word represent creates a grating effect on the eardrums of some people because it's adjacent to this perceived toxic aspect of the current political identity dialogue and is often met with ear plugging and la la la. I don't think being aware of the context in which this game is written makes you an ideologue, though. In fact, I think Rainbow Six Siege stands at a unique point where, culturally speaking, it can bridge this gap in this climate. The game is fictional, but let's be honest, this is often a legal argument to prevent liability on the record of the company. The purpose of Rainbow was to be a big, crime-fighting unit that's evident in the original games and the books. But the idea was in order to have the world's most specialized Black Ops unit, you needed the perspectives of the world's best operators. And that meant you had to go to every part of the globe. To understand the conflicts in the Middle East, you needed Egyptian operators on your team. Because nobody understands a lived experience in a nation better than the people who grew up and lived in it. We're all like this. This is the innate natural blind spot of the human condition. Why do weebs get made fun of when they describe a completely unrealistic portrait of life in Japan? Because native Japanese people would find their perspective absurd. Intelligence agencies need people on the inside who understand the ground game better than a guy at Harvard ever could. And more importantly, they need the most qualified people for the position. Of course, this delves into the realm of the dreaded diversity pie chart, and people assume that this is what's happening to Siege, because business in the world of things often ignores this approach because nobody cares about the identity of the person driving the forklift. Except me. I care. You're doing a good job. But in the world of covert operations, espionage, and the like, it's more than a flex to use the pie chart. It's actually an advantage, because it adds unique perspectives to the equation. Unique assets. We see it all the time in the movies and TV shows, but for some reason, certain individuals being added to Rainbow Six Siege means that Ubisoft
wants to sell me something!
I told you he was on to us.
Regardless of what based, red-pilled motherfuckers want to say, representation means a lot to people. It's inherently linked to the game's popularity as well.
Something that drew me to the game in the first place was that there's operators from all over the world. As a Thai person, the fact that they honored a lot of the Thai culture in her uniforms, in her name, backstory, and lore was really, really cool. They even hired an actual Thai voice actor to voice the character.
The same people who complain that the game is dying because Ubisoft is moving in a certain direction also end up ignoring the tangible benefits of the game having increased popularity, which is kind of self-defeating. I mean, yeah, dude, you can chalk it up to capitalism and how everything is a ploy to make money. Congratulations, dude. You just described supply and demand, which is as old as Brug has 5 thin beast bones that he can trade with Grug for beast meat to feed the tribe. People like seeing somebody like them in a piece of art because it makes it more relatable to them. We can malign action movies like Top Gun for being basic and overly simplistic from a political perspective, but at the end of the day, it ended up being a popular movie because it features believable dialogue and interactions among people who feel like real people. We're invested in their exploits and want to see them win. Realness adds believability to a piece of media and makes people have a closer connection with it, even if it's something as simple as having an Egyptian superhero. Moon Knight's ending was some garbage, though. That shit was obviously rushed, and I'm still mad about it. Siege isn't an exception to this, so if Rainbow Six can do 2 of these things at the same time, it is doing a good thing, in my opinion, doing representation in a way that feels authentic instead of tokenistic and cash-grabby. In my opinion, if Rainbow Six is a propaganda piece because it is featuring people from a wide variety of lived experiences, then that's tough shit. I'll take this over the alternative like Battlefield 5, over the alternative like many parts of the world where people are maligned just because they look, act, or feel a different way than the status quo. I know it's a common talking point, but I do feel like the idea that we can work together despite differences makes us stronger for pooling the brightest minds together to accomplish tough tasks and solve tough problems, not weaker. If anything, I think it's a sign of weakness to reject it, because it's done out of fear of the unknown. It's Team Rainbow, for crying out loud. Happy Pride Month, and if this video raised your Siege IQ, be sure to give it a like and subscribe.
They take issue with inclusion of people unlike them in a license that is inherently designed with the concept of including people. It's such backwards thinking. It makes you wonder what they're really trying to say.
Well, the common counter-argument is that that's cringe.
It's not cringe, it's based, really.
Ah, well, based on what?
Based on these nuts.
Deuces.